Welcome to the University of New Hampshire's Latin Grammar Minute. I'm Professor Scott Smith, and today's lesson is on Latin word accentuation. Now, some books will help you by showing you where the accents go in the vocabulary lists. What we're going to do here is to tell you how all of this works and to give you some idea of how to find the accentuation yourself. So, first of all, what we have to do is we have to learn some technical words. That is how we talk about the syllables of a Latin word in terms of accentuation. So let's take a look at a Latin word. The first one you'll see is consulibus. Consulibus. And this word is 4 syllables, and we break them down as so. So you'll see that the first syllable is con. The second is su, the third is li, and the fourth is bus. You'll notice that Latin is what's called an open vowel language, which means that if at all possible, a syllable is going to end with a vowel. So for example, su and li. It's not sul, ib, us, but su, li, bus. Now let's work from the back, okay? The last syllable is called the ultima syllaba, or more simply, ultima. And it means the last, just like our English word ultimate means the last. Moving back one, you'll see that we have li, which is the penultima syllaba, or the penultima for short. The third from the end has the technical name of antepenultima syllaba, or simply antepenultima, which means third from the end. So ultima, bus, penultima, li, and antepenultima, su. The key here is that these are the only 3 syllables that you really need to worry about, and in fact, you don't even need to worry about the last syllable, at least not right now. Now let's take a look at a couple of rules. All right. Rule number 1, never accent the last syllable. The Romans, unlike the French for example, never accent the last syllable. So whenever you have a bisyllabic word, for example consul, amat, or doctus, you will always accent the first syllable. Consul, amat, doctus. And this is a rule that cannot be varied. It will never change. So if you have a 2-syllable word or a bisyllabic word, as we'll call it, accent the first one and you'll be in good shape. Now, the trouble comes when you have a word that has more than 2 syllables. So what happens in that case? What happens if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 syllables? Well, that's going to take us to rule number 2. The primary accent is either on the penultimate syllable, or penultima, that is the second syllable from the end, or the antepenultimate syllable, the antepenultima, which is the third from the end. These are the only 2 places that a primary accent can be found. Now, there are some words, some longer words that have what we think are secondary accented, but for the most part, we're going to focus just on these 2 right now. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these theories and ideas. Okay, so the question is, where do you accent a Latin word if there's more than 2 syllables? Well, the key here is the penultima. The penultima is the most important syllable for determining where an accent goes. Okay, so whenever you're trying to figure out where you put an accent, you look to the second to the end, that is the penultima. So in this case, you look to the syllable li, and you focus on it and you think about it, and you basically look at it, and depending upon whether or not it's long or short, that will determine where the accent goes. So the rule is, if the penultima is long, the accent falls on that syllable. So if li were long, which is not, right, you would accent it. If, however, the penultima is short, the accent falls on the antepenultima. That is the syllable that precedes it, in this case, su. So looking at li, you'll see that there's no long mark, it's not a diphthong, and it's not followed by two consonants. Those are the three qualities that are required to make it short. So the accent goes on su. So you would say consulibus, consulibus, consulibus. Okay. Now, let's take a closer look at what makes a syllable long for purposes of accentuation. Okay? There are three things that can make a syllable long. First, it can be long by nature. That is, if the vowel itself is long. That is, if it has a macron over it. Okay? So in this case, you'll see the word commotus. Commotus, right? That O has a long mark, a macron over it, indicating that this letter is long by nature. Therefore, the syllable, the penultima, is long and therefore accented. Commotus, commotus. The second thing that can make a syllable long for purposes of accentuation is if it contains a diphthong. And remember that a diphthong is a combination of vowels that are pronounced as one sound. So for example, you can see on the screen A-E, that is pronounced I, the Greek form I, ow, a, o, oi, oi, ui, all those make a syllable long. So in the example you see in front of you, you see the word grandiose. Right? Look at the penultima, the AE, and if it's long, it's accented. Therefore, it's pronounced grandiose, grandiose. And the last thing that will make a syllable long is if a normally short vowel is followed by two consonants. Two consonants. Now, this is the tricky one because you have to look both at the penultima and the ultima to determine whether or not there are two consonants that follow the vowel. So for the example that's shown here, we have the word aeternum, aeternum. Now look at the E in the penultima, right? Ter, right? Normally that E is short. There's no long mark. It's not a diphthong. But if you look closely, it's followed by two consonants, an R and an N, right? Aeternum. Therefore, even though the vowel is short, it is long for the purposes of accentuation, and therefore you'll accent that syllable. Now, you won't make the E long, right? You won't pronounce it aeternum, but you would say aeternum, aeternum. Good. Now, let's take a look at this again. Let's take a look at our example, consulibus. Let's take a look at this word closely. Now, is it long by nature? Is there a long mark over it? No. Is it long by diphthong? No. I is not two vowels that are pronounced as one. And is it long by position? Is it followed by two consonants? No, it's only followed by a single B. Therefore, this syllable, this penultimate syllable, is short. So you accent the su. So consulibus. Consulibus. Therefore, the accent goes on the antepenultima, the third from the end. Let's take a look at some more examples. Let's take one that we've already seen and break it down. So we have this word grandium, grandium. Let's break it down into syllables, right? Grand, I, and wum. Take a look at the penultima, the I, right? The second from the end. This is the one you focus on. Is it long by nature? No, there's no macron or long mark over it. Is it long by diphthong? Aha, yes, it is. AE is a diphthong. Therefore, this is long by diphthong, and therefore you accent the penultima. So you pronounce it grandium, grandium. The accent, therefore, stays on the penultima. Let's take a look at another word. This is mititur. Mititur. Let's break it down into syllables. Mit, M-I-T. The second syllable will be T-I. and the last one will be tour. Now, this is a form you haven't seen before, but it's a good Latin word, and it helps us illustrate some principles here. Now, which syllable do you look at? That's right, you look at the penultima, the second from the end. Now you ask yourself, is it long by nature? Is it long by diphthong? Is it long by position? No, no, and no. Therefore, this is short for purposes of accentuation. Therefore, where does the accent go? Does it stay on this one, the penultima, or does it go back to the antepenultima? The answer is it goes back to the antepenultima and is pronounced mittitur, mittitur. Good. Let's try another one. This Latin word clauduntur, clauduntur, another form you haven't seen, but it will help us illustrate some principles. Let's break it into the syllables. Clau, dun, tur. Okay, look at the penultima. Is it long by nature? Is it long by diphthong? Is it long by position? So is it a long mark? Is it long by nature? No. Is it long by diphthong? Right? Is there a diphthong there? No, it's a single vowel. Is it long by position? Well, look closely. See how it's followed? The U is followed by an N and a T. All right? That means it's long by position. Therefore, you're going to accent that particular syllable. Clauduntur, clauduntur. All right, so let's practice your Latin accentuation. Here are 7 words, so why don't you pause the video now and work on them yourselves. Okay, let's find out how we pronounce these 7 Latin words. First, amamus, amamus. That's right, it's accented on the penultima. Next, secundum, secundum. Also accented on the penultima because it is long by position. Next, insidiae, insidiae. The penultima, D, is short, therefore it is accented on the antepenultima. Next, insidiarum, insidiarum. This is accented on the penultima because the A is long. Next, corpore, corpore. Notice the penultima is short, pa, and therefore you accent on the antepenultima. Next, labore, labore, accented on the penultima because bo is long. Notice that the quantity of the O makes this word pronounced differently, accented differently than the previous one. Corpore, labore. And last, grandaivi, grandaivi. The penultima is long by diphthong, therefore you accent it. And this ends the lesson on Latin accentuation.